I now call the Huntsville City Council meeting to order. All that would like to and are able to, please rise for the invocation led by Debbie Edslinger, an active lay member at Trinity Methodist Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Jerry Cox.
As a Christian, a member of Interfaith Mission Service, and a voice within our community, I ask you all to dwell on Mahatma Gandhi's words. Like the bee gathering honey from different flowers, the wise person accepts the essence of the different scriptures and sees only the good in all religions. Let us reach across our differences and beyond our comfort zones to discover the common thread in all of us, beginning with the basics of do unto others as you would have others do unto you, the golden rule. Let us in word and deed embrace this, the most consistent, prevalent, and universal ethical principle in history, found worldwide through cultures, religions, secular philosophies, and indigenous traditions. Let us join with the City Council in being a voice for tolerance and justice in our community and continued efforts for education and experiences as we pray, in closing, from the faith of Zoroastrianism to eradicate all the misery in the world, that understanding triumph over ignorance, that generosity triumph over indifference, that trust triumph over contempt, and that truth triumph over falsehood. May we who gather tonight agree to advance this hope and potential reality and simply say yes. Thank you.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Esslinger. Thank you, Mr. Cox. The minutes from the regular meeting, June 26, 2014, have been received, and they'll stand approved if there's no objections. We're now at resolutions and special recognitions. We have a presentation of the Star 99 CAFE Young Citizen of the Month Award. Mr. Hamilton.
Good evening. Hey, it's my honor to represent Mayor Battle tonight as he's out of town on a trip, and so it's a real pleasure to be up here and be able to recognize an outstanding citizen that we have here in Huntsville. So to do that, I'm going to ask Dr. Harry Hobbs to come up, and as he comes up, I want to take this opportunity to publicly acknowledge Harry Hobbs' service to our community. Many of you may know that this is kind of his last official act in his current role, serving in the Huntsville Police Department. He's moving on to another public service position in the Huntsville Utilities, and he spent many years serving our nation in the military and has served in our community in the educational field here in service to the police department and now in Huntsville Utilities as he moves there in the near future. So just want to thank you, sir, for your service. Thank you for the outstanding job that you've done on behalf of our citizens. And now I want to pass this off so you can recognize one of our great citizens.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, City Administrator, Mr. Hamilton. Thank you, sir. Awesome. I tell you, I get so excited every time we do this, and I appreciate the City Council as well as the Mayor and our City Administrator for allowing me to do this, and Chief Lewis Morris from the Huntsville Police Department, our Chief. And I'm going to call you on up there, Mr. Michael Milam. This young man is the July winner. No, sir, you just turn that way and smile. I'm teaching him how to do PR here. And this young man is a resident of Huntsville Housing Authority, and he has a crowd here to cheer him on. Go ahead and cheer now, crowd. Yeah. I want to say something a little bit about him and then talk about our partners that are up here to recognize this great young man. This young man is the Communications Director for the Huntsville Housing Authority's Youth Council. He is a member of the Partnership for Drug-Free America. He expects to earn a technical degree at Drake State Technical College and then Alabama A&M. He's got a plan. Very intelligent, very positive. He gives back any way he can give back through the Boys and Girls Club, through the annual anti-bullying rally, fundraising for the Boys and Girls Club, helping at the Manor House and the Community Food Bank. This young man really he just embodies what we want in our youth here in this great city, and what diversity the previous 6 winners have had. And we continue to show that we are a town that allows everyone to win. And if you do what you need to do, you're going to get recognized in a positive way. And with that said, our great sponsors here today, producer Bob, Star 99.1 morning show. They got on board early, as well as Mr. George Dugan from DynCorp International, one of our great research park partners, and Miss Sarah, our great leader from HRC, Human Relations Commission. And so with that said, I'm going to hand it over to our sponsors to administer all these great things to you, sir.
Thank you, Harry. Michael, it's my pleasure to be standing up here with you to present you with a certificate, and it reads, CAFE Star 99.1 and the Human Relations Commission of the City of Huntsville is proud to honor Michael Milam as the CAFE Star 99.1 Young Star Citizen of the Month. And it's signed by the Mayor, the Human Relations Commission, the Community Awareness for Youth, Multicultural Affairs Office, DynCorp, and Star 99.1.
Michael, on behalf of DynCorp International, I'd like to thank you very much. It's wonderful to see the youth of our city coming out and helping the community. And not only that, but you leave an imprint on other young citizens to do the same, which is absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much. And we'd like to something for you and a bag for you. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. There isn't much that hasn't been said except, you know, he's a lot younger than me, but kids like him make me want to do better myself, and hopefully this is what this helps other people to do, and they can get recognized and, you know, want to do better, and that's what you're doing for these people, so congratulations.
Thank you.
You did really well.
And also, I want to present you our CAFE Coin of Excellence as the Director of Community Awareness for Youth. So that's something to have a little memento. And also, we want to thank Mr. Kenny Anderson from the Multicultural Affairs Office for all he plays in this. And we want you to take your photo with the city administrator, but we're going to let you say a few words first, and then you're going to have your Kodak moment, sir.
Hello. I would like to thank the Huntsville Housing Authority, the Boys and Girls Club of North Alabama, my mother, my aunt, my great auntie, and everybody that I have ever met, because everyone I've ever met has played a major role in my development in my life. I can honestly say the one thing I've learned through all my life is that as long as you keep pushing forward and never give up, everything in this world is possible and is always in your reach. Thank you.
Take a picture. Go. Take a picture, sir. Okay. Thank you, council, for your patience. Thank you.
They're going to want to congratulate you back here.
Shake some hands. Thank you, sir.
When you said great aunt, you meant she's a great aunt. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. We have one resolution for adoption only. It's a resolution congratulating Ms. Rosetta Highland upon her retirement as Executive Assistant to the President and CEO of Huntsville Utilities for 31 years. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Kling, second by the chair. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? It carries. Mr. Kling.
Mr. President, Ms. Highland is not here, but I just wanted to take a moment to, I think, publicly acknowledge the great work that she had done For the people of District 4, District 1, District 2, District 3, and District 5 over the past several years during the time we've been up here. Just a great person to work with as a liaison between Huntsville Utilities and the City Council. There's a lot of calls that we would get, a lot of concerns that people would have, and sometimes I didn't know the answer. I knew it was something with Huntsville Utilities, but she was sort of like one-stop shopping. We could always contact her, and she would get the problem, issue looked into and addressed. It may be something like a leaky faucet that had been going on for a long time, and a person may not have liked the final outcome, but she made sure that all citizens were being treated with respect and courteous, and would see if there was any circumstance that they could provide extra assistance to a citizen. Sometimes I know we've had hard times and folks had a hard time with their utility bills, and she was able to direct people to resources that would help them as far as getting extensions on their utility bills. But, she obviously was looking after the interests of Huntsville Utilities too. But she's just one of the finest people. I guess she's kind of like a Joy McKee, Terry Hatfield, that caliber of folks. And we just really are going to miss her. And John tells me we got some good assistants. It's in the bullpen, ready to go. So we're going to be looking forward to good things in the future. But certainly we want to express great appreciation to the wonderful job that Rosetta Highland had done for several years.
Thank you, Mr. Cunning. Under announcement signs, we have one item that's been deleted, 15F. 15F, as in Frank, has been deleted from the agenda. We have no business with outside legal representation. We do have public hearings to be held. Now is the time and place for a public hearing on a resolution to authorize the placement of a weed lien with the Office of the Tax Collector of Madison County, Alabama, on certain properties that have been declared a public nuisance and that have had the nuisance removed by the city. Mr. Binion.
Yes, this resolution identifies a property that was previously declared a public nuisance in accordance with state law. The nuisance has been removed by the city. The property is identified on attachment A by owner and location. Community Development issued work orders to abate this nuisance at a total cost of $3,208.83. I'm requesting that a weed lien be placed with the Office of the Tax Collector of Madison County on this property that has been declared a public nuisance and that has been and the nuisance has been removed by the city. Notification has been posted of this proposed action, and the owner could wish to speak tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Binion. Does anyone from the public wish to address the council on this particular issue? Public hearings. Sir, go to the microphone, please. Sir, if you'll state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is James Hessler. I live at 1320 Pratt Avenue, the property in question. I object to the resolution on the grounds that the city overreached in abating the nuisance, destroying numerous trees, and causing damage to my property. Further, I feel that the optional method of taxation is, which, by the way, for anyone who wants to know, would allow the tax collector, if I were not able to pay the $3,200, to auction my house, leaving me with no collateral for my mortgage, at which point I'm reasonably certain the mortgage company would say, "Mr. Hessler, we need our money," rendering me homeless and destitute.
Are you finished?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Does anyone else wish to address the council on this issue? Public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion? Mr. Culver has moved. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Olszewski. Mr. Jeffron, could you advise the council on this, please?
Yes, members of the council, this matter has been all the way to the appellate courts of the state of Alabama regarding our authority to abate the nuisance at this property. Mr. Hessler has had considerable amount of time to abate the nuisance on his own. We've encouraged him to do so, attempted to meet, develop a plan, work with his attorney, work with the Botanical Gardens COO. All efforts were made to try to encourage this without having to do it with city forces, and that simply was just not successful. So the city did end up using city forces for this purpose.
Thank you. Further discussion, Mr. Kling?
A question, and I'll let whoever would be appropriate, the city attorney or Mr. Binion, respond. I understand the legal process, and it went through the whole legal process and everything. And I understand there was an outreach to Botanical Garden and other resources. Was the level of abatement excessive, or was that, how, I drove past it, of course, I could see a big change, but was the level of cutting that was done excessive, or was it, within the parameters that were expected and communicated?
It was in accordance with the plan proposed and drawn up by the city's arborist. Considerable thought went into the development of that plan, and community development did not exceed, well, actually, it was a number of people. Joy McKee, Mark Byers, representatives of community development, all participated in the abatement of the nuisance, and they followed the plan to a T.
Okay.
Further discussion? Call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. Now is the time and place for a public hearing on a resolution for suspension of licensure for Everlight Business, Inc. This was set June 26, 2014 at the regular council meeting. Mr. Taylor?
Council members, I've related to this. It's been a while, so I want to review for you and for the public the process associated with this request. When the city believes through the finance department that additional taxes are owed the city, then the city will issue what's referred to as a preliminary assessment. It's a notice that we provide the taxpayer of the taxes that we believe are due and why we believe they're due. Taxpayer has a 30-day statutory period to appeal that to the department. We generally allow 45. And then if there is an appeal, then we will consider the matters and decide whether or not any adjustment is necessary. If no adjustment is necessary, or if there's a modification to that, then we will issue what's called a final assessment, a final notice to the taxpayer. Taxpayer has a 30-day statutory period to appeal that, and that would be to an independent hearing officer. There was not a preliminary appeal in this case. And the taxpayer has an opportunity to appeal that to an independent hearing officer that then decides in favor of the city or the taxpayer. The final assessment was not appealed as well, and that makes that assessment binding on the taxpayer. The city has worked with the taxpayer since the issuance of the assessment and the expiration of the appeal period to work out a payment plan for the payment of the taxes in question. Taxpayer has honored that agreement so far, and it's been a little more than a month in that regard. We request the suspension so that we can continue to enforce the terms of the agreement. Of course, the department, the city, is refrained from doing anything with regards to the assessment as long as the taxpayer continues to honor the agreement, which they have and we expect they will do, but we request this to help us enforce that agreement.
Thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to address the council on this particular issue? The public hearing is now closed. The chair moves for approval.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kling. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. We have public hearings to be set. We have a resolution to set a hearing for suspension of licensure for UTSAV LLC. This will be set for the July 24th, 2014 regular council meeting. The chair moves to set the hearing.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kling. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. We have a resolution to set a public hearing on an ordinance zoning newly annexed property lying on the south side of Knotty Walls Road and west of Old Pig Cove Road to Residence 1B District. This will be set for the August 28, 2014 regular council meeting. Chair moves for approval. Second by Mr. Olszewski. Discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? It carries. We have a resolution to set a public hearing on an ordinance zoning newly annexed property lying on the east side of Old Big Cove Road and south of Miller Lane to Residence 1A District. This will be set for August 28, 2014 at the regular council meeting.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Kling, second by Mr. Culver. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. We have a resolution to set a public hearing on an ordinance zoning newly annexed property lying on the west side of Old Big Cove Road and north of Bird Drive to Residence 1B District. This will be set for the August 28, 2014 regular council meeting. The chair moves for approval. Second by Mr. Culver. Discussion? All those in favor of setting the hearing say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. We have a resolution to set a public hearing on an ordinance amending the the approved specific function and use table for the permitted uses within the Linden Plan Development. This will be set for August 28, 2014 at the regular council meeting. The chair moves for approval.
Second?
Second by Mr. Kling. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. We're now at communications from the public. When I call your name, please state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the council. Before we get started, we are going to discuss Kildare fence under unfinished business items. If you want to waive your time here and discuss it under that time, that's perfectly fine with me. Just let me know. If you want to talk about other things in the Kildare Street fence, then you need to talk now. So, Mr. Kenneth Gibson.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Welcome.
Members of the City Council, my name is Kenneth Gibson. I live at 2122 Gladstone Drive. Mr. President, that's in your district, by the way.
Yes, sir.
I'm here on behalf of myself and approximately 1,000 retired employees of the City of Huntsville, many who are with us here tonight. If y'all would raise your hand, I'd like to see all of those that are with us tonight. But as most of you know, the legislature passed an act 2014-429 allowing the state retirement system to provide funding for a stipend for retired employees in the state, city, county, and public utilities department. I am here to ask that y'all consider passing this a resolution authorizing this money to be placed in the 2015-16 budget. According to the resolution, it has to be acted upon before August 31st, but the resolution can be made now and be part of your budget process when you adopt that budget. It can be paid back to the state retirement systems over a 2-year period, or it can be paid in a lump sum or over a 1-year period. But it's based on a formula of number of years of service times $24. So just each employee can figure that amount. It's amount to the city of about $600,000 that would have to be paid to the state retirement system. We've worked alongside many of you, many city other employees, to make the city as good as it is today. And we feel like we have done that in a professional manner, and we expect a professional response from the city council. We know there's tight revenues, but we know it's been since 8 years since we've received any COLA from the state retirement systems and from the city. That's 8 years of continuous increase in monies that we are out for the major things that we have to spend as senior citizens, and that's drugs, utilities, gas, groceries. Those things hit us the hardest. We know the city council recently passed a 1-cent sales tax increase. That's something else we have to pay. So our money also goes back into the city coffers. But we know there's new businesses that have come in since our last COLA. We know there's new businesses coming in the next couple of years that will also put new tax money into the city councils and the city's budget. And we respectfully request that you pass a resolution, maybe not tonight, but in the future. We will keep you abreast of the deadline, and we hope that you will see fit to pass a resolution authorizing this money to be put in the 2015-2016 budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. Culver.
if I could just comment on that briefly so that I don't hold you all up. Mr. Gibson, we certainly thank you so kindly, sir, for that report, and we know that you worked with us for a number of years. Likewise with Mr. Dorning, who was our court administrator at that time. I'm certainly always amenable to the city of Huntsville taking care of those people who take care of our residents here in this city. And that includes our current city of Huntsville employees. Whenever that opportunity presents itself, we certainly want to look at any possible raises for them. The retired employees, and I'm one myself, and Peter, I feel confident that I could probably vote on this or even sponsor this resolution, although I'm a retired city of Huntsville employee myself, but not so much about me as it is for people like you, Mr. Gibson and Mr. Dorning, and all of the other folk who dedicated their lives to the city of Huntsville. and you haven't gotten a raise in 8 years. I know I hadn't gotten one in 7 years since I've been retired. And it's certainly something that we should entertain, and I will solicit my colleagues to help me out on this one, okay? So I just want you to know your voice is not falling on deaf ears. I have to do one other thing, and that is check with Mr. Hugh Evans in the Ethics Commission, Mr. Joffrion, to make sure that I can do that so I don't get out of line. But we appreciate you being here, and thank you, sir, for your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Culver.
Mr. Kling?
Mr. President, somewhat similar to Councilman Culver, I think there are some compelling arguments. We talk about how well our city is and the great job that, previous, groups of employees have done for the taxpayers and laying the foundation for the great things that we have now. And I realize we could be talking about an impact of $300,000 in the budget, but I think that would be a priority for me too. One thing, and there are people who have been retired for, let's say, like 20 years ago. Somebody who, a position that might pay, let's say, $35,000 a year now, that same position, when that person retired, was probably making a guess around $20,000 a year. And
That's correct.
the retirement benefits that y'all get, it's based upon not what the current salary is, but it's on what your job paid when you were an employee, 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago. So I think it's a reasonable thing, since no adjustment's been made in the last several years, and it would certainly be something I think that there is merit. We're not giving you anything. I think it's just a fairness issue, and, it'll be kind of ugly when we get to the budget, but that would be something that I would certainly support Councilman Culver's resolution, or whatever the action would be needed. I think it'd be helpful to spread it out over 2 years instead of trying to do it all as one lump. And, I think we could find a way to try to make it work.
Thank you, Mr.
Again,
Kling.
I think the impact that we're talking about would be about $300,000 for each of the 2 years. And,
Right.
I think that's something we should definitely try to include in the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Kling.
Thank
Mr. Dwight Wright? Mr. Wright, would you like to speak now or later? Okay. Ms. Reed?
Well, that was quick tonight. Good evening.
Good evening. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Jackie Reed, 1000A, Bob Wallace,
Welcome.
Huntsville, Alabama. Since 1958. City Hall for 30 years. Is Mr. Showers is absent tonight?
Yes.
Let the record show this. Sorry about that.
The record shows that.
Record, I didn't hear a word about it. Anyway, thanks for allowing public input. Thanks to all the citizens who care and are involved in our city. Thanks to all the city employees for the great job they do. You deserve a 4% raise. And also, the retirements need their money. Money is no problem in this city. When you see something you all want with the big developers, you go get it, even if you have to borrow it. So money is not a problem when it comes to doing what's right. So I'm holding your feet to the fire. Recognition, when the recognition was being announced, I heard some words say of a town where everyone wins. Trust me, I'm still trying to win some. I thought that was some good words and good encouragement. Anyway, there's some interest that goes on to me, carrying on, is about this coke plant over here, and I think it's on the agenda tonight. And if it is, please explain it very, very thorough, because it's been bothering me for quite a long time. What do you want with it? What are you going to do with it? And how much money is it going to cost, and all this kind of stuff. I think 115.0 is the coke plant on the agenda tonight. The Holiday Inn down here, you're putting out an RPO or a request for proposals or whatever. It concerns me that you want to go after the aquatic club. There are people that uses that. The children play ball over there. Just mess with the Holiday Inn and leave the rest of that alone over there. Please try and stop reaching and taking everything in away from the center of the city. We need that, and don't be messing with that. Please tell the mayor he's not here tonight. I can't tell him, but you tell him I'm on it. I also have to bring up something real quick. I know my time's about up. I went last Monday night, and I was invited to a community meeting in Holiday Homes. A community meeting that I thought was open to the public. When I went, I saw a councilman, Mr. Kling, and a lady outside the building. It was at a church. When I walked up, I said, "Is this where the meeting is?" Well, the meeting is private. I'm sorry. This meeting tonight is very private. And so is the one in August. Hello, I didn't know the meetings were all private anymore. Anyway, I said, okay, I get the message. August 26th is our election.
Ms. Reed,
Well, I've
that's
got to touch base on
inappropriate.
this.
We're not going to talk about politics. It's against state law.
Well, all I'm saying is, if community meeting, I'll tell you at the end of the thing, I have some written up stuff. If this city supports money to the communities, and you all open up your meetings, which I hear you invite everybody, maybe I'm not somebody. If you invite the public to these meetings, why are they private? And if you're supporting these with community watch money, and it's city money, please look into this. I don't want the churches involved in politics. They need to start praying. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reed.
President.
Mr. Kling.
I'll keep my remarks non-political. The meeting that Ms. Reed was talking about was the Holiday Homes Neighborhood Association, and they were having a closed meeting because they were going to have a vote on a sensitive neighborhood issue that they were talking about. They did ask me as the councilman to come, and I was there. Ms. Reed, when she showed up and the raised issue, I told the president of the association, just out of fairness, because it is the season, that I would leave, and Ms. Reed, and I think you can verify, Ms. Reed, I left at the same time, maybe even a little bit before you, and did not attend the meeting, and so they did go on with their meeting. The Holiday Homes Neighborhood Association does not receive any city funding, so they can do what they want to, but they did have a sensitive neighborhood issue, and they just wanted the residents among themselves to discuss, and rather than color the issue, I excused myself and left the meeting, even though I was supposed to give a report in my capacity as a city council member, just to keep things even.
Thank you. Dr. Angela Somerset. Dr. Somerset, if you'll get your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Dr. Angela Somerset, and I reside at 9 Chalkstone Street in the village of Providence, where I have lived for the last 8 years. I will be brief and within the 3 minutes. During the time that I have lived in Providence, for the last 7 months, there have been significant problems in regards to maintenance of common areas, a home that was in terrible state of repair that was presented before the City Council in May of 2014. I'm sure that the Director of Community Development can probably give details on that. The house resided in that capacity for 3 months. I also discovered that our HOA had not reported the home to the city. Community Development came out to cut the grass that was 8 inches high. Animal Control was also contacted because animals were also discovered in the home. There have been parking issues, non-compliance of our HOA with the rules and regulations as set forth within our CE&R, which stands for our covenants, easements, and restrictions. Security issues regarding a neighbor who became confrontational with me, at which point the HOA and the police were notified because she felt that she should have unrestricted access to my privacy yard. The verbal response from our HOA was that this was a private matter, although our resident handbook states otherwise. This neighbor also cut shrubs this year and placed them on the grass between both of our properties without bagging them, and has had unsightly trash cans outside of her fence. All of what I'm saying this evening, I have pictures as well as documentation and emails from our HOA. I also have surveys to represent our neighbors which are not here, but I also have neighbors who are with me here this evening. Our HOA's response has not ever been immediate. This same neighbor has shutters on her home which are buckling and peeling, and I reported this to our HOA on January the 19th of 2014, and as of this evening, they are still not repaired. I unfortunately have to look at these shutters each time I go on my back patio or in my yard. The common point of this home and the failure of our HOA and the developers to rectify this problem is the simple fact that Jeremy Carter, our HOA president, who does not reside within our community, is this neighbor's accountant, and the Slimans built her home. I have had a problem with a covenant member who illegally cut my grass. This was discovered after the turf keeper contacted me at my office. I explained that I had just left the house 20 minutes prior. They were coming out to do a chemical treatment which was not able to be applied because this covenant member had cut my grass. The way I discovered this was by notifying my HOA, who then sent out an email through the website, and that's how he was discovered. This particular neighbor, who is also a covenant member, was reported by 2 female neighbors taking pictures of my home, and I am a physician who holds a narcotics license. This was also reported to the HOA after confirmation on my surveillance system on June the 2nd between 10:48 a.m. and 10:53 a.m. I have sent an email directly to the Village of Providence Covenant Committee, and as of today, I still have not received a response.
Dr. Somerset, your time's up. Do you need more time?
Yes, about 30 seconds.
Councilmember?
I have also tried to contact the Slimans by phone, text, and finally a certified letter on July the 2nd, and as of today, I still have not received it. Because of their failure to comply with the rules and the regulations that they have administered to us, including the Articles of Incorporation, as well as our CE&Rs, my hope is that the Village of Providence, which is completed at 100% Phase 1, be turned over to the residents of Providence so that we can nominate our own board of directors. The other thing that adds insult to injury is when I discovered that the council has also recently nominated Todd Sliman to sit on the Metropolitan Advisory Committee for the Planning Commission of the City of Huntsville. And he is a builder, a realtor, as well as a developer, which are multiple conflicts of interest. So I am also asking for the reversal of the nomination of Todd Sliman to this committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also have a volume with pictures and anything that you need in this case, and I'll be glad to pass those out if you would like.
Ms. Stamper, will you get the information from Dr. Somerset?
Mr. President.
Mr. Culver.
One of the items, or a couple of the items that Dr. Somerset addressed, let me just preference my discussion this way. Of course, some of the things the city can get involved in as it relates to the neighbors' residents. Is Mr. Binion here? Someone from community development, as well as animal shelter. The house that I reported probably a month or 2 ago, what has happened with that?
We have ridden that property and sent notices on that property. I'm not sure what the final dates are. The grass, of course, is a 14-day notices, but improvements to the property can be up to 90 days or more if the extension is requested.
Okay. Okay, but we're working on that.
Oh,
is
yes.
that right? Okay, and thank you, Mr. Binion. Is Dr. Shepherd, Animal Services? Is anyone from? Dr. Karen Shepherd there, or representative?
Councilman Culver, I'm not sure if she's out there, but I can capture any issue you have and we can get answers to you.
Oh, okay, okay. I was checking on I think there was a cat or some animal abandoned there. But those things, Dr. Somerset, were reported, and the city departments have begun to work on that. Anything that I can do to help as it relates to between the Slimans, and I'm going to ask, is either Todd or David here tonight? I didn't know if they would be here, a representative of theirs. But I'll be more than happy to get in touch with them and make them aware of the concerns that you have expressed. And at some point in time, hopefully, maybe, we all can sit down and talk about that. Mr. President, do you mind? I think she has a question or a communication for me. I don't need to go back and forth.
Yes. Dr. Somerset, do you need to speak to address the council again?
Yes, I definitely do.
Okay, please do.
I'll be quite frank. As a physician, if I put a Band-Aid on an abscess, what do you think is going to happen? I've talked to the Slimans. I hate to even say this, but yesterday evening around 9 o'clock, I was coming home because I had to go and get a Coca-Cola, which I was glad to actually get. I saw Todd Sliman walking between Grill 29 and a restaurant. And I really don't have to say, because I think Mr. Sliman knows, because an hour before I came to this meeting, Todd Sliman tried to call and leave a message. I had a Covenant member send me a text message in caps trying to prevent me from coming to this meeting. I'm tired.
Well-
Anytime a physician has to take time from seeing her patients to come and create volumes of information for someone in terms of a conflict of interest, if that was a state board at the hospital, this wouldn't have happened. I work hard in my property. I cut my grass. I maintain my home. I clean my home. I wash my cars. Anyone in this room that are my neighbors, they can tell you I keep meticulous property. Nothing gave that Covenant member the right to do that. The only thing that stopped
Dr.
him
Somerset,
from defacing my other property.
I'm not sure what the point is.
The point is this: it's a conflict of interest with the council nominating him to sit on an advisory committee that is going to be a conflict in every way, where he will know exactly where to plan and how to develop within the city of Huntsville. And so I am here so that hopefully we can all understand about passing legislation to control HOAs. This is the exact reason why, because people put Band-Aids on situations. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, we're dealing with several things, and I'm trying to help mediate those things that are within my duties as council representative, but
Sure.
I certainly am going to do my best to make sure that you are comfortable in your home, Dr. Somerset. Thank you, thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you,
President.
Ms. Culver. Ms. Delilah Van Lanningham? Okay. Mandy Hodges, would you like to speak when we get to that issue? Okay. Dee Johnson? Okay. Helen Sockwell, Ms. Helen Sockwell? Ms. Sockwell, if you'll state your name and address for the record, please.
Helen Sockwell, 2100 Sockwell Drive. Good to see so many friends up here, by the way.
Ms. Sockwell, we're having trouble hearing you. Please speak
Okay.
loudly into the microphone.
2100 Sockwell Drive, Helen Sockwell.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good to see so many friends, but sorry to see the mayor's not here. I wanted to say that we were thrilled to see all the participation at Ditto a couple of weeks ago. That was really wonderful. We need more of that. But I want to talk about the coyotes. At the last council meeting, I noticed that someone was here talking about the coyotes, and as it turns out, I just had the same conversation with someone from animal control, because coyote got one of my animals, and I asked around, and apparently vector control used to pick those things up and do whatever they did with them. And sometime during Mayor Spencer's administration, that stopped. And I don't know what vector control is exactly. I couldn't find it under the city administration, but I noticed that animal control has a budget of $1.75 million, including the $50,000 it takes to take care of the animals themselves that they have. But I'm thinking that somewhere in that budget there is enough room to get rid of these things. Because I was told that the citizens could get a cage and catch them and bring them into animal control. But that's kind of dangerous for just regular people to do. The cages are not expensive. I checked on them. They're $160 at a local store. So I wanted to ask that y'all look into that some more. I know first time we were aware of the danger of these things, we've had them around forever, but there was an Auburn professor prior to 2007 that was attacked by one. So if that's true, they can attack children, and they've certainly taken off animals all over my neighborhood. So I just wanted to ask y'all to continue to try to find money to do something about this. Thanks. That's it.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Ms. Trammell.
we'll take on the issue, but I would ask that the public not attempt to capture coyotes and bring them to animal control. That, as you state, would not be a safe course of action, and we'll work that issue. Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Stephanie Perry? Ms. Peggy Parker, do you wish to speak later? Okay, we understand. You want to speak just back there? Okay. We have no Huntsville utility items. We do have board appointments to be voted on. We have a resolution to reappoint David Little to the Huntsville Police Citizens Advisory Council for a term to expire July 8, 2016. The chair moves for approval. Second by Mr. Olszewski. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. We have a resolution to appoint Pam Cobb to the Huntsville Police Citizens Advisory Council for a term to expire June 22nd, 2016.
Move for approval.
Motion by Mr. Kling, second by Mr. Culver. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. We have board appointment nominations. We have a nomination to reappoint Joyce Griffin to the Museum Board of the City of Huntsville for a term to expire August 14, 2020, made by Mr. Kling. We have a nomination to reappoint Betty Shunrock to the Von Braun Center Board of Control for a term to expire August 27, 2018, also made by Mr. Kling. The chair nominates for reappointment David Nash to the Museum Board of the City of Huntsville for a term to expire August 14, 2020. Are there any other nominations? We're now at 10, approval of expenditures. 10A is a resolution authorizing expenditures for payment. Mr. Kling.
Mr. President, move for payment of vouchers in the amount of $13,888,705.39.
Motion by Mr. Kling, seconded by Mr. Culver. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. Mr. Kling, do you have a Finance Committee report?
There's no other business, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Olszewski. Mr. Culver. Ms. Kling.
Mr. President, I guess one thing, maybe we can just kind of clear the records if anybody has been hearing about, there's a rumor afloat, and the more a rumor gets out and the more people talk about a rumor, the more it gets out past what we expected. But John, correct me if I'm wrong, but the city has no plans to build a $750 million sportsplex complex in the middle of Big Spring Park, do we?
Councilman, that's correct. What we had a number of calls from concerned citizens today because there's a website that publishes fake news articles. I think their intent is to be humorous, and they published an article that with made-up people claiming that there was a Major League Baseball stadium at the price of about $750 million to be built in Big Spring Park. It was completely a hoax. Intended to be humorous, but unfortunately it spread like wildfire across Facebook and other places, and so anybody who saw that should understand it was intended to be humorous by the organization that published that article.
And I guess just for verification, I think Mr. Culver and I have looked at all the financial information we looked at on the Finance Committee. We hadn't seen anything about a $750 million line item, so I think we can put that one to rest pretty quick. I wanted to thank the folks over at American Legion 237, 176, and the Fraternal Order of Eagles. My wife has been laid up with surgery, and so I attacked the 4th of July barbecues with a vengeance. And Councilman Showers was here. I'd mentioned that I did hurt myself, but it was great hospitality, and I got some barbecue to take home, and it was a lot of fun to get out, and I'm glad we can take a few minutes and think about the fireworks, the barbecue, the baseball games, but also to acknowledge what's very important, and that's what the 4th of July is all about, and the freedom, similar to what we do on Memorial Day. And just want to express thanks to all the good people who stayed up all night cooking barbecue, because it was sure good. And that's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Kling. I just want to mention real quickly two members of our community that passed away this week. There were two very special members. One was Jack Harbarger. He was truly a member of the greatest generation. He was 88 years old, lived a great life. He was actually on a ship and witnessed the Marines raise the flag at Iwo Jima, and I thought that was very special. I'd never met anybody with that much history to talk about, and so very sad he passed away, but he lived a great life. And also today the funeral was held for Albert McDonald. Albert McDonald was a fine man, a state senator that represented this area very well. He also served on the Agricultural Commission, and he was a true public servant. I'd never heard a bad word about Senator McDonald. He did a great job for us, and really going to miss him. We're now at unfinished business items for action. 13A is resolution number 14-346, substitute A, revoking that certain license agreement between the City of Huntsville and Dwight Wright approved by resolution number 1356-568 on July 25th, 2013. The chair moves for approval. Second by Mr. Olszewski. Mr. Gelfand, could you explain the substitute A, please?
Yes, members of the council, I had requested several continuances of this item in an effort to work out an agreement with Mr. Wright regarding an amended license agreement with a reduced size fence, and those negotiations came to an end today when I was notified by his attorney that he was not willing to accept the limitations imposed by the city. So the resolution authorizing the revocation has been amended to give Mr. Wright more time within which to remove the fence. The original resolution only allowed 14 days. This amended resolution allows 60 days.
Thank you. As we mentioned earlier, we're going to take public comment now for those that signed up. Mr. Dwight Wright, you're first. Mr. Butler, you may go first if you like to.
My name is Julian Butler. I live at 628 Owens Drive, Huntsville 35801. I represent Dwight Wright, the owner of the property known as the Kildare House or O'Shaughnessy Place or McCormick Place or whatever, and I think y'all are all familiar with it. 1 year ago, almost exactly 1 year ago, y'all granted a license to Mr. Wright to build a fence in the city right-of-way. I was not a part of those negotiations, and nothing I say is meant to reflect on those that were. But unfortunately, there were two problems, I think, big problems with that license, which is what you're asked to revoke tonight. One was there were absolutely no specifications with regard to the fence. There was no description of the kind of fence that was to be built. There was no limitation on height, width, material, what it looked like of any kind whatsoever. And in the resolution before you and in the discussions, there's been a lot of discussion about what was represented, and there's a lot of disagreement as what the discussion was. But at no time was Mr. Wright ever told, you must do this, you cannot do this, you must build it this way, or it must conform to something. The second unfortunate thing in that agreement is what's before you tonight, really, is that it is revocable at will. That is, the city can revoke that license at any time for good cause, no cause, bad cause, whatever else, which leaves Mr. Wright in the position that he has absolutely no security of any kind after investing an awfully lot of money in building the fence. For the last about 6 months, we have been involved in negotiations with the city. Mr. Joffrin has been very accommodating to me and has been available. Unfortunately, only Mr. Joffrin was available. We had asked, but we were never able to sit down at a table with all of the decision makers in regard to this fence. And we asked to do so, and I was repeatedly told when proposals were made to Mr. Joffrin, well, I'll have to check with the decision makers. But we were never allowed to meet in a meeting and have a give and take with the decision makers. One of the kind of problems we faced in this negotiation is 2 years ago, that is a year before this agreement was entered into, Mr. Wright placed in the right-of-way some large stones to keep people from driving into his yard, driving into the shrubbery, driving into the berm where the shrubbery is. A year ago, when this agreement was entered into, those large stones were never mentioned. In the discussion or negotiations that have gone on since, I think, December or January, those stones were never mentioned. When I received a draft of the proposed agreement yesterday morning, one of the provisions of that draft was that those stones had to be removed. First time Mr. Wright and I have ever heard of it, and those stones have been there for 2 years. That's another one of just the omissions from this license agreement. When you were first confronted with this issue, what you were told and heard was the issue is liability. City's liability if somebody drives into the fence, if the fence falls over and hits somebody, that was the primary issue presented to you. Mr. Wright countered, and we said, fine, we will indemnify the city and hold them harmless, and we will back that up by adding the city as an additional insured to a $500,000 liability insurance policy. So if anything happens with the fence and the city were to get sued, Mr. Wright's insurance carrier would have to defend the city and pay any judgment against the city up to $500,000. That meant then we were told the height of the fence was the problem. And we reached an agreement that we would lower the fence to 8 feet. And the purpose of this fence is to keep primarily young people coming in the middle of the night from throwing beer cans and rocks. It won't keep them from yelling, but it would at least keep them from doing things that would destroy the house. And we had reached an agreement in regard to the 8-foot height of the fence. I thought we were almost there. But the one thing we kept being told was this revocable at will, that anytime 3 members of the council wanted to cancel this agreement, Mr. Wright would have to tear the fence down. We made a proposal that you give him 3 years where the city could not revoke it. And I don't think there's any plans to widen Kildare within the next 3 years. I don't think that right away, that is a problem. And we said except in an emergency situation and the city would have a right. And then give 7 more years, total of 10, where it would be revocable by the city council for good cause shown, which is a phrase that is very frequently used in contracts and leases. It means that on a whim, and I don't imply that any one of the 4 of you sitting on there on a whim would do this, but you may not always be there. And that any time 3 members of the council wanted to, they could come in here, they could revoke the lease, and Mr. Wright would have to tear down a very expensive fence he has bought. We forget in all of this discussion, this is a very valuable historic property. It is an asset to the city of Huntsville. I think Mr. Wright has made available to you a opinion by the state, a man with the State Historical Commission, that this is one of the most valuable houses of its type in the state of Alabama. The house was up for foreclosure at the time Mr. Wright bought it. He wants to preserve the house. He hopes to have the money over time to invest to bring it back to its real glory. But having this fence is essential to it. And what really broke the negotiations down was he could not live with the fact that he was being asked to invest a lot of money in building the fence, in moving the water meters, which was discussion, out of the right-of-way. And the water meters are his next-door neighbor's water meters, but they're in the right-of-way of this house. The minor thing we would ask tonight, well, the major thing is for you not to pass this resolution. Do not cancel this license and say, you've got to get the fence down. What we would like is, one, for you to say, let's leave those rocks there. And I'm not being ugly about it, but you drive through this city and you look at lawns where there are not curb and gutter. And all over the city, people have placed rocks in the right-of-way to keep people from driving into their yard or into their shrubs or into their fence. We would like that. And secondly, to say that this is not revocable at will, but there is a period of time, and we would like 3 years, that it would be irrevocable, and then a period of time where it would be revocable only for good cause. That's what we would like. We will even accept saying, okay, there won't be the 3 years, but there is 7 years, 10 years, whatever. But that it would be revocable only for cause. That if city department heads came before you and say, the fence is in awful shape, it's whatever, and y'all had a reason to do it, then it would be a reason to revoke it. But to have Mr. Wright not to know every morning when he wakes up that somebody's going to say, okay, we're going to city council and tell them just because we want it down to take it down. And I know you're tired of this issue. I know it's been before you an awfully lot. This first time I've been here. But I really plead with you. This house is a valuable asset to this city. Preserve it. Don't make Mr. Wright move his rocks, but most of all, instruct the city attorney to go forward with negotiations with us. We'll make it an 8-foot fence. We will deliver to Mr. Joffrey, in which he's been asking for, a detailed description of the fence which would go in the lease. But all we want is that it can't be revoked except for good cause. And I think that's a very reasonable request. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dwight White?
Good evening. Good evening. Dwight Wright, 2005 Kildare Street. Kind of hard to follow that. Thank you, Mr. Butler. But I am addressing you tonight concerning the resolution that is before you to remove, to revoke the fence. I had hoped that the negotiations we have would make it where it wouldn't be necessary for me to stand and address you tonight, that we would just be voting on the modifications. But as Mr. Butler has pointed out, we were not able to reach an agreement. So I want to address the resolution that is actually before you. And when you look at that resolution, if you remove the words, the legal words from that resolution, what you're left with before you tonight is the statement that says, I, Dwight Wright, lied to you. To say that I misled or misrepresented is saying that I lied to the city. And I feel that is an extremely strong accusation. And I also want to point out that if you vote to approve this resolution tonight, you are all agreeing that you believe that I purposely lied to you about this. And I would hope before you make that public declaration, you consider what evidence you personally have that this is true. When did I lie, and what lie was told? As has been pointed out, this resolution also illustrates the fact that the city had absolutely no idea what type of fence they were approving. It states that it would be in keeping with the architectural style or period of the adjoining house or neighborhood. Which one? Was the fence intended to match Kildare, the 1960 ranchers, or the Depression-era bungalows that surround it? Instead of saying we want to revoke this license because I lied to you, possibly the resolution should say we want to revoke the license because we did not bother to find out what type of fence you had in mind before we gave you permission to build it. We let you spend all that money and then decided we had made a mistake by having absolutely no language in the license about the fence. Is the problem that I lied to the city or that the city didn't do due diligence? As Mr. Butler pointed out, we have worked with attorneys for months trying to reach a compromise that would work for everyone. However, the concessions only seemed to go in one direction. I agreed to a fence that I did not feel provided adequate protection, and many of the other terms I didn't agree with. But the final straw came yesterday at noon when I finally got a draft of the modifications, and there were new conditions that had never been discussed. I would like for you to tell me what exactly it is that I did wrong. The fence was built with your permission. If the city had concerns, why did you ever grant the license? Why did you not include any specifications in the license? Why was I allowed to spend the money? And do you think this is the right thing to do? Do you think this is the way to treat your citizens? And I also want to be clear that your vote tonight is just not about the removal of the fence, and it's just not about publicly calling me a liar. You're determining the fate of Kildare. I am convinced and have always been convinced that the restoration of Kildare would have a huge positive impact on North Huntsville. People often complain about no new developments in that part of town. This was a chance to have that. So tonight, you are determining if the house survives, if it's worth protecting, and if you want the potential for something great to happen in North Huntsville. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Delilah Van Lanningham?
Good evening. I'm Delilah Van Lanningham, 2005 Kildare Street. I moved into the Kildare mansion in late November 2007, excited to begin what I thought would be my life's work, to save and restore this historical treasure and someday open it to the public. The main floor would be available for parties and celebrations of all sorts. The second floor would have 4 of the most luxurious hotel suites in the state of Alabama. And Kildare Cellars would be perhaps a private membership supper club with soft music and dancing. and I would maintain a private residence and offices on the top floor. Kildare would once again come alive with all the grace and grandeur of the Gilded Age in which it was built. What a jewel for North Huntsville. I had no idea that this dream would become a 6, almost 7-year nightmare, starting with a knock on the front door less than 2 weeks after I moved in. The man introduced himself as Ronald Dearmer. He and his wife, Pat, own 3 duplex apartment buildings next door. His concern was his first building closest to the Kildare Street. He said it was built on a slab back in the 1960s and that it sat a mere 3 to 4 feet from the property line. And if anything happened to it, it would cost twice as much to rebuild it on a new slab to be in accordance with current setback rules and regulations, rather than building on its original slab. Therefore, he asked me to sign a quitclaim deed for approximately 1/10 of an acre of Kildare's yard. He said that he, in fact, owned this property, which, by the way, included the servants' quarters to Kildare. That our surveys were ambiguous and my signature would clear it all up. I told him that if he had a claim, he would have to contact Dwight's attorney, but I wasn't about to sign anything. Mr. Dearmer became agitated, saying he wasn't going to pay for any attorney. He'd just make my life difficult until I signed. Naturally, I thought this man was insane, and I asked him to leave my home. But true to his word, he has, in fact, caused a great deal of trouble and torment these last 6, almost 7 years. Now I realize this must sound strange to a lot of people. I understand that. But much of this is on videotape, and many have seen this man in action for themselves. But what I and many of my neighbors cannot understand is why this administration has chosen to aid and abet this man free of charge in his efforts to extort property that he does not own and to bully us with the weight and the power of their office. So I would caution the City Council this evening not to, by their vote, become an unwitting accomplice to some of these curious decisions coming from City Hall until you get the truth about what's really going on here. There's a lot you're not being told, but rest assured we're eager to work with the media and to launch a website at www.kildaremansion.com so everything can be laid out for public inspection, and we'll let the public decide what's what and who is really who.
Ma'am, your time's up. Do you need more time?
1 moment, please.
1 minute, please.
Thank you. This is a mess, not of our making. We didn't draft this license. And the only way to clean this up is for this administration to step back and deal with us openly, honestly, fairly, and in good faith. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Mandy Hodges.
My name is Mandy Hodges. My current residence is 113 Burrell Avenue. My previous residence was 2006 Kildare Street. I lived right across the street from the Kildare Mansion, and everybody keeps talking about security, and I have addressed you before. I have a picture that I would like all of you to see, please, before I continue.
We'll get it from you. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if you want to do it before, then we're going to have to bring it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Last time I spoke to all of you, I talked about the reason why I moved from Kildare was for the safety of my 3 children. This fence is not just for the safety of the homeowners, it's for the safety of all the residents. The year that picture was taken when I lived on Kildare, and that's how old my children were. They have heard malicious things. They have seen terrible things. My 4-year-old was woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning with people yelling at us because I was outside with a homeowner trying to keep our neighborhood safe. It is not just the Kildare Mansion, it is our neighborhood. Now it used to be my neighborhood. I had to move for the safety of my children. In the top picture, the little girl on the left-hand side, one day in the middle of the afternoon after school, she was almost hit by a car because they were staring at the Kildare Mansion, not paying attention to my yard. And I do believe I talked about this just a little bit last time I spoke to all of you. They do not look at the house across the street. They don't look down the street. They don't pay attention to anything but the house. My daughter could have been hurt very severely. I was outside with her. The She was 7 years old. That picture was taken. She was 7 years old when that happened. My children could not play outside. I did not do anything to cause this. My children did not do anything to cause this. My neighbors have not done anything to cause this. The safety for everybody would be to put the fence up. That wouldn't stop the yelling. That would stop people throwing things at the people outside. I have had half bottles of Gatorade thrown at me and Dwight at the same time. I'd have apples thrown at me. I'm trying to keep my neighborhood safe, and I was doing my job as a mother to try to keep my daughter safe. The only way I could do that was moving. My daughters are now 11 and 8 years old. They don't have to worry about it anymore because I had the ability to move. If the fence is erected, any other neighbors that move in across the street, which is a beautiful home and a wonderful yard for little kids to play in, will not have to worry about if their children can go outside and play and if they might get hit by a car. Because my children weren't even able to go up to my mailbox because people would stop in my yard, they would cut through my yard, and my children could not play outside because they would not, people driving by yelling, they wouldn't look at my house, they would look at the Kildare.
Ma'am, do you need more time?
Nope, that was all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. D. Johnson.
Hello, good evening. My name is Dee Johnson. I live at 2108 Kildare Street, where I've lived for 17 years. And I would just like to thank you for the opportunity to be able, as a citizen, to express repeatedly our desire as a community of wanting and the need for the fence at Kildare Street. This is my 5th city council meeting that I have come to and supported Dwight in this fence, as I had mentioned in previous instances of being on community watch, where I've had to run people off from people going into the yards, and it was mentioned about the rocks and everything, and I think that was a safety issue of when they were talking about how it could be a danger, and I don't understand how their rocks could be a danger, could be any more dangerous than a 2-lane roundabout in the Five Points area that has rocks and beautification. They have really tried in the 17 years that I have been there, seeing previous owners do nothing to beautify the area, to restore this mansion back and to do something for our community. No one other than Dwight has tried to do a better job at restoring that. And I would also just like to state that not only myself, but we have had approximately 50 neighbors that have signed a petition supporting this fence. We don't understand I don't understand how the city, when you can go into other places of the city and see fences higher than 8 feet tall, and that's acceptable, where here, trying to protect someone's privacy, protect their home, is causing issues and repeatedly having to come up and just ask you to please do what's right for not just for Dwight, but also for our community, for our street, that we want to live in peace. We don't want the people riding up and down, speeding up and down the street, people that are just there to be a nuisance. And I just thank y'all for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Peggy Parker.
My name's Peggy Parker, 2307 Kildare Street. Been here before and talked about the fence. It's become an old issue. It's going on too long. I was raised in Huntsville. I was born here. It's my home. Worked at Huntsville Hospital 35 years, was born at Huntsville Hospital. And all I'm saying there is Huntsville means a lot to me. My home means a lot to me. And I want to see Huntsville grow. I want to see it better. Our neighborhood has gone down, and a lot of the reason is because people hasn't kept it up. he's trying to make it better. The fence is not going to be a bad, unsightly thing. It's really going to be a work of art if he's allowed to build it. And one reason is because of privacy issues, but another one is I think it would help our neighborhood. Community watch. Our community watch mainly consisted of watching Kildare Mansion because that's mainly where the trouble was. And, you know, we don't live in a bad neighborhood. We just want to make it better. And the issue does need to be settled. It's been going on too long. And, you know, and the people that's putting up a big stink about it don't even live in the neighborhood. This is our home, you know, and we want to make it better. And to have the fence torn down will make it unsightly in that area. So, you know, it just needs to be there. Thank you.
Thank you. Did anybody else wish to speak on the Kildare fence? That was the only people I had on my list. Okay. Mr. Kling.
Mr. President, I have a couple of questions, and let me just say up front, if I'm kind of going back to square one, it's because I've had no briefing, no contact, no discussion of this pretty much since the whole issue's been going on over the last several weeks. You know, it'd be carried over. I knew that there was some, quote, negotiations going on, but, so I'm going back basically to square one. Can you, Mr. Gelfand, can you explain, the issue here about the fence? It's on city right-of-way, or what the whole issue is? Why is this here tonight? Or why is this issue actually coming up over the last several weeks?
I don't even know where to start, Mr. Kling. I would like to.
Okay, is it on private property, or is it on city property?
This is on city right-of-way. I would first like to say it's a shame that this has become intensely personal, and that the integrity of city officials has been impugned. And Mr. Butler, I'm disappointed in the way that you've handled this tonight as well in light of our conversation today. Mr. Kling, this is within the city's right-of-way. The property owners at no time have been prevented from building a fence on their own property of whatever dimensions and size they wanted to. That has never been an issue. It's always been available to them. They make it sound as if it's the city's fault that their property is in, there may be a demise of their property.
So if this thing were to be voted down, turned down, he can do the same fence design, scoot it back a little bit?
They could if they chose to do so. They were not being prevented from even building a fence. We were trying to reach agreement on a reduced size fence. They chose to break off negotiations. They made reference to several new issues. The only new issue that was brought up were the boulders in front, which could hardly be a deal breaker and a deciding factor, and it might very well have been something that could have worked out. Upon request, after they never submitted any specifications for the fence as requested, which was one of the reasons we were trying to reach a well-negotiated agreement so that we didn't have this problem again. So specifications were not submitted. The boulders were a new issue, but they were not being prevented from erecting a fence in the right-of-way. We're heading toward an agreement whereby they would be allowed to build such a fence.
Okay. The city, we have the authority, and here I'm asking legal issue advice in a public meeting, but the city council, I'm assuming because this thing's up here, we have the authority where this agreement, we can rescind what was previously granted.
Yes, sir, you can.
Okay. I just want to point out on this whole thing, and of course I've been kind of a bystander on this, but I did about 2 months ago contact Mr. Wright, and just an idea to kind of, you know, see if we could get some sort of compromise or something. I raised the issue about, why don't we just take the height of the fence and just reduce it to 7 feet? And that was turned down. So I've tried to kind of put something out on the table and didn't fly. So I guess unless I hear something different, my inclination is going to be to support the city attorney's recommendation, since it's been through such a long process over several weeks.
Mr. Culver?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. And I would say to Mr. Wright that I heard new things tonight. You probably should have had Councilor Butler or someone of his caliber represent you from the beginning. But Mr. Gelfand, my concern was, which was pointed out at one of our meetings, which to me is making me kind of rethink some things, the city's liability. I mean, all of us deal with lawsuits on a regular basis, and nothing is more difficult than having to give taxpayers money to settle cases. But I'm hearing something different from you all tonight that I haven't heard, which was the insurance that brings the city in as someone who would be insured, if I'm hearing that correctly, under your policy that you're paying for, which would be a maximum of $500,000. Is that right? That is correct. I'm sorry, I don't mean to go back and forth. I'm just nod your head. That'll be fine. And I also heard that that you all were very close in terms of your negotiations. I know this has been going on. I was just looking at the history of it for several months now, and we certainly need to do something. But if we are not at an irreconcilable difference, I wish there were to be a way that maybe we can continue with negotiations, if that is remotely possible. And that requires the cooperation and participation of the city and your counselor, Mr. Wright, and Mr. Joe Frion. I don't know how you feel about that, but I'd like to use that phrase, measure 10 times and cut once, before we have him to take up that fence. I did do a couple of not drive-bys, I rode by him. And it didn't look that great in the present condition, but I remember you did say that it would look great when it's finished, and I can understand that. But if that were to be something that you all think you could work with, I certainly would be open to, not officially, but open to making a motion to table it until maybe further negotiation attempts. And if that doesn't happen, then I'm sorry.
Mr. President, can I respond very briefly to that?
Yes, please go ahead.
I really don't want to get into the habit of negotiating agreements in an open council meeting. That's pretty unusual to do. I don't know how close. Close is maybe a misnomer. Mr. Butler, as he pointed out, probably the greatest single issue for them was the issue of revocability of the license agreement, which may make this not very close. It may make the parties much further apart than it appears. Mr. Wright wanted the license agreement to be totally irrevocable for a period of 3 years, and then revocable only for cause for an additional 7 years. And that just was not acceptable. Now, the council are the decision makers. Whatever three of you want to do, then we'll do. If you want to change that, you can change that.
Well, I guess a good compromise would be revocable for 18 months, revocable with good cause in 7 years. I'm just throwing that out.
Can I just suggest that if you don't wish to revoke it, that you take some other action, and that we can talk privately about this instead of negotiating this in the open council?
Right. I don't mean to negotiate it tonight in open council, but for you all to have continued dialogue on it at some future point in an attempt to reach some kind of amicable agreement and understanding, if that were to be remotely possible. And I know you all are two very, very venerated attorneys here in this city, our city attorney of 20-plus years and our retired county attorney for however many years. That's all I have.
Ms. Klein?
I'm just curious, I think this is part of your district that you're.
Absolutely. And council members and the public.
Just interested in your input on this.
I've been working on this for years. Mr. Wright, I know well. He has called me. We've talked about it. And I've been pushing the city for years to do something to help Mr. Wright in Kildare Mansion. And I would say at the beginning, either some people probably didn't want to help him for all kinds of reasons. They wanted him to build the fence in his own property, which is certainly how everybody else would be treated. Because it was Kildare Mansion, we asked, hey, could he work in the right-of-way? Could we make use of the property? And there were many, many different discussions, all kinds of work. And the city, in my opinion, bent over backwards to try to make this work. And today, Mr. Wright could have accepted the agreement and built that fence at 8 feet, or he can move it back, and build it whatever height he wants to on his own property. But he doesn't want to agree to those terms. And I think the terms are fair, especially where we are in the situation right now, because it's been going on so long. But that's, again, my opinion. As Mr. Gelfron said, if three of y'all want to change those terms, we want to talk about it and work on it. Mr. Kling.
Just as a question, okay, we're talking about the right-of-way. This is where the whole controversy of how high the fence and all the guidelines, and then moving it off the right-of-way to his property. How far back are we talking about? Can anybody on either side?
Ma'am, we can't, Mr. Kling, if you're going to ask questions, you need to ask somebody specific. You ask me and I'll
Okay,
find
I was
out.
kind of looking at you. I mean, I'll take it from wherever, but whatever, what was the
Okay.
distance?
Mr. Davis, do you have the map with you? Could you come to the microphone?
It's not a
A ballpark.
parallel figure all the way across. I think it varies from 13 to 23 feet, according to the survey provided and attached to the license agreement. If I'm wrong, then Mr. Wright can correct me about that.
So you understand that he can do what he wants on private property, and we encourage him. We want I think everybody up here, and I think everybody in the city wants the Kildare House saved and preserved. The issue is what can be done on the city's right-of-way. And in my opinion, the negotiations have been very fair and very, very good, and everybody's been working for it. The other party just won't accept them, and so we're at a disagreement.
Mr. President, could I ask for a 1-minute timeout recess where I could talk to you and talk
Me?
to Mr. Joe Frown? Yeah.
No, I want, if anything I want to talk about, I want to do in public. You're welcome to talk to Mr. Jeffrey.
Well, gentlemen, I'm afraid my problem is that I have not had any counsel from the city attorney, and I'm being hit blind, and I'm asked to make a decision. Mr. Geoffrion, this thing was carried over, 2 weeks ago. I didn't know what was going on. I know there was a memo I did receive, several weeks ago, and I had no idea until I came in here what was going on between 2 weeks ago and this week. So I'm just trying to ask some questions and trying to get some closure on this. And
Yeah, and I fully expected tonight to come into to not approve this, that the parties would have come to agreement, and that's what we were hoping for. That's why it's been
I
being.
just hate to ask my questions in public when I have legal issues.
Well, you can go ask Mr. Joffer on you.
Can I have a 1-minute?
Yes,
timeout?
we'll take a 5-minute recess.
1 minute would do.
Not right now. I just tried on these things. I guess I'm
frustrated on this one. The guy turned me down. I said, what about 7 feet? Any ideas on this?
I don't like the fence.
Well, the guy came to my town meeting, so I guess that's how I kind of got in. Somebody else's district, you kind of like to listen, you know, to where that council member wants to go and go with him. Forthcoming. But I only these last 2 weeks, you know. That's on the.
No.
To rescind the previous agreement.
That's what this thing.
Okay. Mark, I'm open to whatever you want to do. Looks like a good effort's been made.
The chamber come to order, please. We took a recess. We are discussing 13A. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there further discussion? Council members, and just to explain, Mr. Elfin, I'll make sure I'm correct. Tonight, if we vote in favor of this, we are revoking the license.
Yes, sir.
And the fence would have to come down. If we don't vote in favor of it, then Mr. Wright will continue on under the agreement that we already have in place?
Well, work has been stopped on his fence because there is no agreement in place.
Okay.
I mean, you approved a license agreement a year ago, but because of the way the fence is being constructed, work was stopped.
Okay.
Mr. President.
Yes. I just want to make sure y'all are clear before we take the vote.
I certainly
So please ask Mr. Elfin questions.
I certainly understand that, and I prefer to move forward with neither of those. I'd like to make a motion to table it for further possible negotiations, and if it doesn't work, then we'll come back here and be prepared to make a decision.
May I suggest instead of the phrase table that you pick a meeting, either the next regular council meeting or 2 council meetings or something?
Let's do, and I know that Mr. Geoffrion has a very busy schedule, and you are probably going to be away for a minute. Could you give us a suggested time, Mr. Geoffrion, for continuance, other than moving forward today, sir?
I will not be here at the next council meeting. I will be back the first regular meeting in August.
Could we do it the second council meeting in August, please?
Okay, so your motion is postponing this issue to the second regular council meeting in August? Is there a
Mr.
second?
President, if there's a postponement, I will be back I will be back I will be back on August 2nd. So that's plenty of time for the first regular meeting in August.
Okay, I just didn't want to rush your negotiations, but that's fine, sir. I'll certainly accept that, and we'll postpone it. My motion will be to postpone this until the first council meeting in August.
Is there a second? Okay, the motion dies from lack of a second.
Mr. President.
Mr. Kling.
I just want to ask, make sure I understand everything, and again, I'm probably repeating, but if the council, majority of the council takes action to, basically to approve the resolution as, you know, that's before us, this would not prohibit a fence, the same design fence, from being constructed, just anywhere from 13 to 23 feet or whatever is on the private property. Is that correct?
And he can construct the fence on his private property. That's correct.
Okay, so this is not an all or nothing concerning the fence. I guess one comment, this is a courtesy to Councilman Culver, whenever we do have a council member makes a motion to, you know, to carry something over as a courtesy, we usually go along with this, but just make sure everybody understands the history of this. This thing, originally it was postponed, I guess it was up for action on May the 8th, it was postponed. It was postponed on May the 22nd. It was postponed on June the 26th meeting, and it's up here tonight, so I feel like it's been through a thorough process. And as a courtesy to Councilman Culver, that was the reason I didn't support the motion for postponement. It just seems like it's been around for, you know, being carried over and carried over and carried over for about 2 months.
Mr. Culver?
Thank you, and to that end, I certainly do appreciate that, and I know that Mr. Geoffrion and the other department heads in city government have worked tirelessly on this matter, but even with regards to that, it just appears to me to be so close to reaching some kind of an agreement. And, you know, once whatever we decide to do tonight, and he has to remove the poles, that part of the fence that's on the city right of way, you know, you just can't go back and undo that. But I mean, with my motion failing, then we'll have to move forward with whatever it is we need to do tonight.
Mr. Kling?
I'm just wondering if we could find, well, I'm trying to figure this thing out again. You know, I came in cold turkey on this, at this meeting and didn't really know what had happened with the issue. I think this resolution says the gentleman has, how long to remove the fence?
60 days.
60 days, which is a pretty good length of time. If the council passes this resolution that's up for us as is, would there be anything that would prohibit this issue coming back to the council. I mean, this issue's been turned down, and if the issue's been turned down, that could pretty much be it. But like, if y'all were to approach the city attorney, Mr. Russell, the city administrator, and you think you can work out another deal, could the issue come back after it has been turned down by the council? Hypothetically.
Yes, sir.
Which means if there was anything, you would be getting a gift. So I'm just putting it that way, because after 2 months of this, and I tried myself and I got turned down on 7 feet, but I would just throw that out on the table. If, and this is just me speaking, somewhere down the line, a new agreement comes back in 2 weeks, 4 weeks, or whenever, before the fence has been removed, and it passes muster with Mr. Russell, who I'm kind of listening to because it's, you know, in his area, and Mr. Jofrion, then, you know, conceivably I could be open for something like that. But I think it's remote. It seems like there's been a lot done by the city and not much coming the other way. But I would just throw that out as a grain of salt.
And Mr. Kling, if the other party would accept the terms right tonight, we could
Okay.
fix this immediately.
I agree.
But they don't accept the terms, and it's
Okay.
not really about the height of the fence. It's
Yeah.
other terms they disagree with, and so, you know.
I'm going to support you on this, and if they.
Ms. Kling, please vote the way you think is best. I appreciate your willingness to support you, but please make your own decision.
I will make my own decision.
Thank you.
When it comes to District 4 issues, vote the way I want you to vote, not what you think is right.
Okay, but that's not the way it's going to happen.
Understand.
Council members, is there anything else before we vote?
Mr. President, I'm going to abstain from voting on this item.
Okay.
Thanks.
Further discussion? Call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. It passes 3-0 with Mr. Culver abstaining. 14A is new business items for introduction. It's an introduction of an ordinance concerning the annexation of land on the east side of Mooresville Road and on the north side of Huntsville Browns Ferry Road. We're now at 15 new business items for consideration or action. Please notify the chair of any items you'd like to hold. The chair holds L, M, and O. Are there any other items? Hearing no other items, 15A is a resolution authorizing the mayor to amendment number 3 to the agreement between the City of Huntsville and Rimini Street, Inc. for PeopleSoft support services. B is a resolution authorizing the city attorney to seek a forfeiture of the surety bond issued by Western Surety Company. C is a resolution authorizing the clerk treasurer invoke Regions Bank letter of credit number 55106102 for Cedar Park at Belgrove subdivision. D is a resolution authorizing the clerk treasurer invoke Service First Bank letter of credit number 19105 for Big Cove Commons subdivision. E is a resolution authorizing the clerk treasurer invoke Service First Bank letter of credit number 19106 for Big Cove Commons subdivision. G is a resolution authorizing the mayor and agreement with the City of Huntsville and Media Fusion, Inc. for the filming of a Huntsville Fire and Rescue training exercise. H is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter agreement with the low bidder Reed Contractor for Weatherly Road Extension, a.k.a. Hazeland Road, project number 65140RD01. I is a resolution authorizing the mayor to amend the contract with APEC Mid-South, Inc. for South Memorial Parkway access improvements, project number 6513TI02 by change order number 1. J is approval to advertise and fill position of engineering technician, pay grade 15, and fill at the steps higher than minimum within the pay grade if necessary. K is a resolution authorizing the mayor to agreement with the Alabama Department of Transportation for grading and/or landscaping on right-of-way, project number 6514 SP40. N is a resolution authorizing the mayor in agreement with Garver LLC for engineering design services for Ditto Landing improvements, project number 6514 SP39. P is ordinance to amend budget orders number 13-630 by changing appropriating funding for various departments and funds. Q is a resolution authorizing acceptance of donations. R is a resolution authorizing the mayor to accept the low bidder as specified in the attached summary of bids for acceptance. S is a resolution authorizing the mayor into a contract with Family Services, Inc. to build 2 houses with home investment partnership grant funds. T is a resolution authorizing the mayor to apply for and execute a fiscal year 2015 and fiscal year 2016 EPA Air Program grant in amount of up to $300,000 in federal funding to support the city's air pollution control program. U is a request for authorization to advertise and fill 4 general service facility workers positions and to fill at a higher rate than minimum salary if necessary. Chair moves for consolidation of 15A through 15E, 15G through 15K, 15N, 15P through U. A motion consolidation approved, second by Mr. Culver. All those in favor of consolidation approval signify by saying aye. Opposed? It carries. 15L is a resolution authorizing the mayor to an agreement with the Alabama Department of Transportation for a special permit agreement for installation of utilities on highway rights-of-way, project number 6514 SP41. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Kling, a second by Mr. Culver. Ms. Martin, could you explain this, please?
Yes, sir. This is an agreement between the city and the Alabama Department of Transportation for us to relocate utilities and modify the existing turn signal at Watercrest Drive and US 72 West.
Thank you.
There's no city funds involved.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. M is a resolution authorizing the mayor to agreement with the Alabama Department of Transportation for special agreement for installation of drainage structures on highway right-of-way, project number 6514 SP42. The chair moves for approval.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kling. Ms. Martin?
Yes, sir. This is also an agreement with Alabama Department of Transportation for the same project, commercial site. We are having to add new infrastructure to accommodate the new turn lane, and so this is at no additional cost to the city and would allow us to do the improvements.
Thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. O is a resolution authorizing the mayor in an agreement with Walter Scholl Engineering Company, Inc. for engineering design services for investigation of public infrastructure for redevelopment in the area of Clinton Avenue, Monroe Street, and Pollard Avenue, project number 6514 SP45. Chair moves for approval.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kling. Mr. Davis, could you explain this and tell us the cost, please?
Council members, the cost is $79,560. It is to investigate the public infrastructure along Holmes, Clinton, and Monroe. As you're well aware, the former Coca-Cola bottling plant is being tore down, and the property has been put out for sale to the private market. And the city, as we're approaching our budget plan for 2015, we want to have a good handle on the redevelopment cost that the city could be incurring. We've got several cross easements. For instance, I will tell you there's a sanitary sewer line that bisects the property that has long lived underneath the former bottling company. We know that will have to be relocated as the property redevelops. It just is undevelopable without that. The sidewalks through that area, due to the age, is substandard. They're not current width standards. So we're trying to get a handle on what the city within the public infrastructure, nothing on the private property, that we might be looking at as that property redevelops.
Thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. 16A is an ordinance authorizing vacation of a portion of utility and drainage easements along the rear lot line and south lot line, 2515 Washington Street. The chair moves for approval.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kling. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. We're now at non-roster communications from the public. Mr. Cox, you'll go first. State your name and address for the record, please.
Jerry Cox, 4029 Telstar Circle. Thank you, Mr. President. I went to sleep out there earlier and didn't get signed up for the earlier meeting, so I knew Colonel John would be on to me. First, Mr. President, as a veteran of the United States Army, I wish to respectfully acknowledge the one 23-year-old United States Marine killed in combat in Afghanistan in the last 2 weeks since the last council meeting. Mr. President, I'm a member of the Huntsville chapter of the Retired Federal Employees. One of our outreach programs is to have an event at the Tut Fan Veterans Home each year. We did that back in May, and as a result of that, had the pleasure of being invited back to Tut Fan today for their 19-year anniversary celebration. Just a fabulous event. I was just delighted to have the opportunity to introduce myself and talk to Major General Brown, a female 2-star general. Back in my days in the Army, we didn't have female 2-star generals, so it was a pleasure for me to meet her and to talk to her. She said that was her first time to visit Tut Fin, but it wouldn't be her last, and neither will it be mine, because I have one of my good friends from the Railroad Museum there with Alzheimer's. Now, Mr. President, for a commercial. The nonprofit, all-volunteer North Alabama Railroad Museum out on Chase Road in the district of the distinguished president will have their Freedom Express ride this Saturday, July the 12th. And for the first time, with our train rides, we're going, like the rest of the city, we're going modern, and we will have food trucks out there. So you can come at 10 o'clock, ride the train, and then enjoy the food from at least 3 food trucks. Or you can come and enjoy the food from the 3 food trucks and take the 1 p.m. train. It's a 10-mile ride, as you know, Mr. President. And as I said before, this is a nonprofit organization, all volunteers. And Colonel John, Mr. President, you've never lived until you've gone out there and picked up a spike hammer and driven spikes at a railroad. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, and thank you for leading us in the pledge earlier today. Mr. Reed, did you want to speak? Mr. Hennessy, state your name and address for the record, please.
Walt Hennessy, 10,002 Hogan Drive, 35803. Mr. President, members of the council and staff, thank you for the opportunity to address you. First of all, speaking as a real estate broker, we've had a scam going on in the city, in fact, actually around the world, the country, and it involves Craigslist and some other sites out there. But basically what it is, it's a scam that somebody will pick the information, a listing information off of our Valley MLS and basically clone that, like on Craigslist or some other sites out there, and offer it for rent. But you have to call them, and then you do the negotiations with somebody over the phone, and their ultimate goal is to get a security deposit, the first month's rent, last month's rent, as much as they can get out of you. They say, if you send us the money, we'll send you the keys, but don't talk to the real estate agent that has it listed. Well, I'd like to thank Steve Doyle. He wrote an article today, and that has spread around. I've kind of moved that article through the real estate community, and I've gotten wonderful feedback from it. So I just want you to know, first of all, that is going on. The public needs to know that unless they talk to a property manager, they shouldn't be looking at renting property just over the phone. Second of all, spay-neuter clinic. We are, the Fixing Fido program is well underway, and so far we have fixed 143 dogs. And so that program is going very well. It's a voucher program that if you have a dog that needs to be fixed and you don't have the money to do it, we'll give you a voucher and arrange to go to a private veterinarian to have the procedures done. We have plenty of grant money, and we're hoping to be open hopefully by the end of this year. So I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you, and y'all are doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Reed?
Thank you very much. I want to thank the city, whomever. We watched the fireworks, the 4th of July, and they were absolutely beautiful. We were down at the Old Credit Union and with my family, and this was really a great, great show that they put on. Back to this community meeting. I'm just going to make a statement, and then I got into something else. I don't believe in an organization that either receive direct or indirect, say, the city funds through the Community Watch Association should conduct meetings that bar city citizens. I live in everybody's neighborhood. I've been going to everybody's neighborhood for the past 20 years. Never have I ever been told, Miss Reed, go home. This is private. If they're going to have private, why don't you have them some other night other than a monthly community meeting? Oh, that really bothered me. Believe me, I took it home and done a lot of praying about what went on there because I think it had to do with an election. It bothered me. Anyway, what you did up here tonight with this Kildare house, I'm ashamed of every one of you for not giving them more time. You need to go out there. Drive up and down that street. Thank you, Mr. Culver. You needed, every one of you needed to go out there. I did, twice. I would not want to live next door to that house with what I see. You ought to be ashamed of yourself for not having a work session, including every one of you. We don't have work sessions anymore to discuss this kind of things, and I don't understand why. You should have went out there, and then you should have called a work session and brought this up and have made an agreement. They're probably going to tear the house down and file a lawsuit on you. Don't be a bit surprised. But 3 of you that made that vote tonight, I think it's bad you didn't give them more time and have a work session and discuss this. And if you hadn't been out there, that's a shame that you take a vote on something. I've sit here and watched you for many, many years vote. Give easements to developers, move lines over and give them 5 feet, give them 10 feet in the back, give them 5 feet in the front. I go to planning commission, zoning variance boards, and watch this council right here. You give and take many, many times for all these developers. And tonight, what I sit here and watched you do, I'm ashamed of you. Have a good weekend.
Mr. President,
First, let me correct. Ms. Reed, we did have a work session just 2 weeks ago on neighborhood concerns.
Okay.
Mr. Kling?
just to clarify things, the Holiday Homes Neighborhood Association is a neighborhood association. It is not a community watch chapter. They get no city funding directly, indirectly, period. Also, Mr. Hamilton is aware of the issue that the neighborhood was talking about. It was not a political issue. It had to do with that neighborhood situation with Merrimack. Had nothing to do with politics. And I was there because they'd asked me to ask, they wanted me to be there in my role as a city council member. Nothing political, but since Miss Reed left, I thought the only thing I could do under the circumstance was to leave also. So just want to clear up Holiday Homes is.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to address the council? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned.